You're possibly live.
Turn your on.
John, we don't hear your coins, sir.
Coins.
No.
Live?
We're totally live. We're totally live. Here, we're on. Hi.
Good. John turned off his coin sound on his phone, so we'll be all right.
Good. Before we start, we are suicide stuff in this rating.
Oh.
We're rated R. Why are we rated R?
Bad words.
Bad words. Okay. You know, that's the thing, the disclaimer. I'm down.
Very good. I'm excited. I will let everyone introduce themselves, but first I am Jess Stohlmann-Rainey. I work at Rocky Mountain Crisis Partners in Co, and then also do some activism and side gig work at the sort of intersections of disability justice and lived experience and suicide and mental health stuff, that kind of thing. And then our guest today is Leah Harris, and I'll let her introduce herself.
All right. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right. Hello. So good to be with y'all. I'm a mad queer writer, suicide attempt survivor. I am the single parent of an incredible teen. I'm a correspondent with the webzine Mad in America. Some of my writing can be found in We've Been Too Patient, the edited volume by Kelechi Ubozo and L.D. Green. In that film called The S Word, made some appearances in that thing. Also in a little project called Live Through This, showed up there. Hey! As well as I hurt myself today, so those are all some of the projects I'm involved in. That's what I got.
So basically we yell about things together a lot, is what we just learned.
Yeah, we're mad about it. Desi, your turn.
Oh, me. I'm Dese'Rae Stage. I run livethroughthis.org, which is a series of true stories and portraits of suicide attempt survivors across the U.S. Do some other stuff, but mostly right now I'm in the middle of trying to finish up a final for class, and I'm really tired, so I can't think very straight about all the other things. Not that I can ever really think straight, but
Understandable.
Yeah, some of the big stuff. And it's your birthday tomorrow.
And it's my birthday tomorrow.
And ideally, the very epic surprise I have planned will happen in time, given how our mail system is working these days.
Come on, mail.
Really important.
Come
happen.
Yes.
It'll happen. We'll see. Ideally, there'll be video. So today we're going to kind of spend some time in a review of some of the stuff that we found most important and interesting at the AAF conference. We know that conferences are not accessible to everyone, but if we're talking about suicide, we want to take some of that knowledge and spread it around a little bit. We cannot do a 2-day conference justice in 1 hour, so we're not going to. But we're going to lodge our complaints here and then also talk about some of the cool shit we saw. Actually, not even really the cool shit we saw, just the cool shit we did there, because that's what we've got time for. No, there might be some other things. We might go over some other stuff. So that's kind of the general plan for today. One thing I want to say about the conference is that this was the first year where it felt like people gave a single shit about any marginalized people. I don't want to say that everyone did. That's going too far.
We have proof that that's not the case, in fact.
Yes, we do have proof. Some people, and actually kind of a lot of people, I think, gave a shit about marginalized folks there. So that was cool to me. Leah, you had some stuff you wanted to talk about sort of generally regarding the conference, too.
Yeah, I just want to echo that. I was really happy to see that attention paid to marginalized folks who usually don't get front and centered in these kind of conferences. And yeah, I think something just like on a personal level, this isn't even really about the content necessarily, but really appreciative that they managed to take the conference online, despite all the limitations we could talk about. But it was some emotional labor. I felt. Just want to say, because we have the safety of being together that we usually have when the conference is in person, right? All of the opportunities to decompress, debrief, just shoot the shit, any of those things. So yeah, I mean, just like a big reason that I go, honestly, is to be with community, be in solidarity with community. And so like we found our sort of ways to debrief on Zoom, but like it wasn't the same. And I fell asleep before the suicide spring break party. So that's my bad, because I'm hella old.
Trying to have a party on Zoom it's weird.
Yeah, and people like are spies and stuff, but we'll get to that later. Maybe we may or may not talk about spies. We'll see.
I'm always down to talk about the spies.
I mean,
people are spies and stuff.
Paradigm about level 9.5 for me right now, so it's unclear whether or not people were spies, but I will accuse them. No,
I concur. I'm pretty sure there were spies and stuff.
Yeah.
It felt kind of espionage-y.
Yeah. Like, why? What? Okay. So yeah, there's this huge component of the conference that is about connecting with people. I think John Singer talked about that a little bit, about it being a little bit like a family reunion. And I think our family reunion part is the best part of it, but I guess other people have their families there too. And you can find a family for anything. If you want to make some like white supremacy kind of family, they're probably there too. But then there's like cool people like us that you can connect with. So
why are you like this?
So yeah, I think there's not a lot of spaces where you get to talk like candidly about suicide, even within our like sort of more activist groups or advocacy groups that we all participate in. Really talking about suicide in an academic and non-academic way is not available to everyone very often. So cool space. And was a little bit more accessible this year in some ways than others, but also that being on Zoom 10 hours a day is like a mind fuck. So that part was hard. I also think regarding your point, Leah, that this was a lot of emotional labor. I think that as people with lived experience, a lot of what we're doing there is being vulnerable, like extremely vulnerable about our experiences, whether we're directly talking about them or not. Usually our work is connected to that. So I think that for us to like be doing that space where we don't like a nest of people to like bring us in afterwards and like things will be okay. That's hard. And I'm like thinking about the first conference where I talked about on a panel where I talked about voice hearing, how like scary that was for me, and like how much I needed people to go back to after that. Like, if I did that kind of thing at this conference, I think I would have been okay with it.
Yeah, that would have been hard because there was a lot of time that we spent after that particular panel with you. Did I just ruin my career? Did I ruin my career? Have I ruined my career?
Yes. How many times can I ask you if I ruined my career? I still text you that at least once a week, so things haven't changed that much.
That is
it's an ever-present fear. Yeah, I live just constant fear of crash and burn of my career. Yeah. Hard relate.
All right. So the first thing we wanted to talk a little bit about is that Leah and I did I just like can't even trying to say it out loud. I still can't believe this happened. Leah and I got to do a keynote session about white supremacy culture and suicidology.
That was
so
awesome.
I'm just going to start there. That happened.
Just let it pause, let it sink in, rest.
And no one like reviewed our slides or told us what we were and weren't allowed to say. I think I managed to do an entire presentation without saying fuck, which is amazing. I don't think I even said shit. I don't want to make a bet on that second, but I'm pretty sure I didn't say fuck. So I was professional as well. Something like that. In my sparkly crop top and glitter tears.
The glitter tears,
All
everything.
of
Yeah.
And we had like a really awesome session about white supremacy culture. And it was actually received really well from what I hear. I couldn't follow the comments on it fast enough, but it was like pretty amazing to me that people were rethinking critically about their work in that context, that it resonated with them, that in other presentations I went to later, people were talking about how they see white supremacy culture showing up in their work. People have contacted me about like consulting on it, and I was like, talk to a person of color and pay them. But like, there's been some really cool stuff that came out of that. So, Leah, I know you have some stuff you want to say, and then I thought we could try and do like a 2-minute review of our thought on white supremacy culture in suicidology.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I have a ton to add than that. Jess, you approached me to talk about the topic, whenever that was, way back before the apocalypse.
Yeah.
I wasn't even going to go to the conference just because there was the, quote, air travel that got, quote, canceled soon thereafter. Mm. So, but I not at all turned down that opportunity. I was absolutely not. And so, like, I think, the fact that I thought nobody was going to come, and there were like how many people were there? There
were like 500 people just live watching it, and there's like 1,000 more people that have access to it.
So that definitely exceeded my expectations. Everyone would be homeschooling their children or doing kind of multitasking in the evening, but showed up for it, and people engaged with it, like you said, Jess.
Yeah.
I did not catch the comments. I would really love to catch them, but I saw somewhere, whether it was on the Twitters or I don't know where it was, where somebody it was actually a career-changing experience for whoever that, somebody. I remember off the top of my head, but yeah, it was like I was like, okay, well, that like in and of itself, I'll take it for sure.
Yeah.
So open and like receptive to some pretty heavy duty critique.
Yeah, we did not pull punches. That's for sure. At least I didn't feel like we did, but.
And I don't know if I used expletives in the course of my presentations.
I don't remember at that than me though.
I'm just, I might have reined it in for the AAS community. Yeah. Did y'all a favor?
So 2-minute review. Basically, we used Tima Okun's. There's this paper that talks about the qualities of white supremacy culture and their antidotes. And so we use that as a framework to talk about suicidology. And sort of the one thing as we were going through preparing this presentation that we talked about is like that list sounds like just a description of psychological sciences, basically, of all kinds. So white supremacy culture is like deeply embedded in the work we do, and unlearning that is really hard. And there are like some specific things for me as an individual that I struggle with around white supremacy culture. The two big things are this idea that progress, that things are getting bigger and they're more. Because I've worked in nonprofits, that's what grants are set up to tell you. So like, you're not making progress, you're not going to get funded again unless you're doing something different and bigger and better than you did the year before. So that kind of mindset is something that I can fall into really easily. And then the other one is this like perfectionism thing. And it like, I've been really testing myself around that in my life lately. Like, for example, I don't spend 2 weeks like writing down everything I'm going to say in this discussion right here, which is like, that's a big test for me. But there's something really interesting about like having perfectionism as a white person, like deeply ingrained in you, and then talking in a keynote speech about perfectionism while you're speaking how unprepared you are. It's a weird thing. So that was an experience I had. But in the comments, I'm going to post our Timo Kuhn's article, the resources we gave out.
Yeah, Thank you. I was just going to tag team on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you were really forthcoming about what was going on for you heading into that presentation, Jess. And I was not, because hence perfectionism, right? Exactly. But Jess knows, Jess was getting texts. I have these really like scary sensations, panic, kind of like low key, like rolling hills of panic attacks, right? Just ongoing. And just nonstop crying, just that kind of that whole range of like fun and disturbing kind of bodily experiences. So yeah, I wasn't even sure if I would be able to talk, let alone like show up sane passing, right? You got to be sane passing at all times.
Right.
Coherent, articulate, professionally presenting ideas about suicide prevention and white supremacy that have these enormously high stakes, right? And that I think I have this internalized kind of obligation around my non-scientist status in this world, which kind of like feeds into one of the, the principles that we talked about, which is this pretend objectivity, right? That psychological science, that the science of suicide prevention, measurement, all the different things that we call suicide prevention, right? That there's a certain objective way to do that. It's going to involve at least a pie chart, more likely a set of graphs, right? And that, and a big, giant data set. The bigger the data set, the better. And, just has this, particular bias towards what is truth, what can be measured, what is important, right? And what is the solution, right? So I think white supremacy culture framework really kind of challenges that objectivity that even like came up at other points in the conference, like that day around like what kind of knowledge is valid when it comes to this whole suicide prevention thing.
And that conversation has continued on Twitter it's been a week.
Yeah, people still talking about it.
Still talking about it.
Talking. Do not stop.
Cool.
Yeah, it is. I have nothing to add. I'm just like, objectivity is not real. So there.
Yeah, take it in. Let it marinate.
Yeah. It was, I have a lot of stuff about that too. And I think like, particularly us into this space as like we are people who are educated, but we don't have PhDs. We're people who don't do scientific work, right? I would say that's debatable because I think this is a little bit mythology, but whatever. Well, right. That's a different thing. We don't do scientific work, and we're up there presenting an article that is about a way that people of color have defined white people's culture and using it to critique suicidology without we're giving examples, but we weren't giving data at all. And it was kind of received okay. Not okay, I think really well. So that was kind of amazing, but also a bizarre sort of experience to have of I guess. I don't know how to say it. I don't know how to say that differently.
Yeah. I just really felt like the weight of that responsibility, and not again to fall into a trap of perfectionism, but
yeah,
you talked about and articulated how this framework does harm, and people really don't like to hear that they've been doing harm.
Yeah.
So there's something kind of threatening about that, but I really appreciate the opportunity to sort of use my white privilege and my sane passing privilege to talk about some white supremacy.
Yeah.
Shit and stuff.
Yeah. I feel like I'm barely holding on to that whole sane passing thing, but we did it.
It was mercifully brief and almost Q&A, and you took the only A. So I thank you for taking the A.
I don't even remember what it was. I did beautifully not notice that we had started allowing people into the Zoom room and just open everything up by being kind of feel like I might puke. And then people in the chat started being like, "You'll be great." And I was like, "God, you're all here. What's happening?"
It's a real-time cheering squad.
Anyway, it was
keeping the limit down. Yeah,
that was intense for me.
Did you guys have people helping you the whole time in the panelist section?
No, I didn't even look at it.
Nary a glance.
Every time I played a video in my talk, I had someone in there being like, "You smell like poop" or something, you know?
Nice.
Do people know that when you save the chat, I just love that I know this, because when you save the chat log from a Zoom session, it saves every private message, everything as a part of the log. So all of your stupid secrets.
That makes me a little ragey. They need to not use the word private. Not that privacy exists. Objectivity and privacy, they don't exist.
Yeah.
Let's just get right
Don't
with that.
trust you.
Right, yeah. So I'm hoping they publish with the sessions, and then somebody said some real ridiculous bullshit that they can be held accountable for. Because now going to AAS is all about holding some shitty people accountable for me.
I mean,
You got to do the work. Part of the work is holding shit-ass people accountable.
Yeah, and ideally people will do that for me when I'm shitty. Like, I know you all will, but...
Please, everyone tell me when I'm shitty.
wipe your
Because I'm fragile. Fragility. Gently tell me shit.
Let's see. I also put on here the harm inside harm reduction panel that we did, but Des, you were there for part of it. Leah, did you get to see that one?
I did.
Okay. Do you want to talk about that one, or should we move on to other stuff? Because we have lots.
Well, I've been talking a lot. Des, would you like to share some thoughts on that to kick this off?
I was only for part of it, the whole
That's
thing.
right, you were only there for part of it. I was only there for part of it too, so I got to be honest.
The whole thing for me was...
We talked about I hurt myself today.
Yeah, we did. We did talk about I hurt myself today. I hurtmyselftoday.com.
Mm-hmm.
That's a project we've slowly been going on. I think we bought that URL 5 years ago now, Leah. Maybe 6.
Yeah, that sounds right. That we rescued something from the internet 1.0 that I'm very proud of.
Yeah, and we're working on revamping it, but the world is fucked right now, so things are going slowly.
Yeah, we were going to edit a bunch of stuff by the end of March, but now it's May.
None of us did it. Yeah,
I knew I missed that deadline. Let's put that one.
Just maybe we wrote March. We meant May. Maybe. So the only thing I think I would say about that session that was really powerful to me is that Des was already going to be on it, but then she had class in the middle of it, so she couldn't be on the whole panel. So, Heidi Hexa and Alice Roriani were on the panel with me, and I kind of tried to step back a little bit and be more of a facilitator. But what I really loved about that panel was that all of us have extremely different experiences with both suicide and self-injury, and what was helpful for us and what wasn't. But basically use the lens of harm reduction, which is like, how do you make this experience less harmful for a person in ways that work for them, and they get to define harm. So we got to talk about sort of like suicide and self-injury separately, and then also their relationship together. And, what we heard from people is that while they are very different motivations, they're also in dialogue with each other all the time. And we got to have a really candid, interesting conversation like DBT and like feel about it being oppressive, but all things that it was like really helpful for people. Just like a lot of nuance in that discussion.
Yeah. I was going to just jump in and say, that was something that gets all coming back to me now. I apologize. No. Yeah, just like the multiplicity, and don't have to have just one understanding of what self-harm is. Like, when I was self-harming, it was either treated as like, you're a manipulative, hysterical female, everywhere from that to it's a full-blown suicide attempt, and just the fact that we've evolved to the point where we can actually like hold different ways of understanding it and different ways of approaching self, and like all of those things can be simultaneously true.
Yeah, and I think I talked a little bit with Heidi and Alice about like doing Elise. God damn.
Yeah.
I always say the wrong one and ask all the time like a jerk.
It's so funny.
Seeing it written just ruins me once I get it in my head. Sorry. I like you a lot. So I talked with them maybe about trying to run that session just again as like an open meeting at some point, or like for free for people, because I think it was really, someone told me, I got an email from someone who saw it that said it was mind bending, which I thought was great. I was like, yes. But I like there's so many providers who are scared of those things, so it would be really cool to make them accessible for folks, and then maybe potentially thinking about running that again, but more geared toward people that with lived experience, to be able to like share strategies that come out of that harm reduction. So I feel like that would be really cool. So that's one of the things I care a lot about, is how do we make this information accessible, take it somewhere else, so it's not just our stuff that we remember in our little corner.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, well, now we have paid Zoom accounts. We have people who do things on Zoom. Like,
Yeah.
pandemic times have opened up a whole new world for us. You know, we're not just Skyping on fucking WebEx.
Yeah.
Trash.
Oh, WebEx, that's the worst.
Ooh, yeah, beyond the webinar software.
Yeah.
My mom's here. Karen's here.
Oh, Karen. It's been a rough couple weeks for Karen.
It's been a rough time.
I mean, like, they can hold it down, I think, or they should, but it's been rough. I hear you.
She's no longer going by her given name. She's JoJo now.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
Just forever. She's given up on Karen.
Like,
JoJo's sassy. I like it.
yeah.
That's her grandma name.
Yeah. Have you got some beefs? Because it's the beef corner time.
I have beefs. I have beefs with my children. They won't let us sleep.
They're beefy.
They are also beefy.
Yeah, my very beefy also.
God. I swear, it's like two little shitheads. They know when we've shut our eyes. They know. And then they're like, ah! You're like, but why? I just want to sleep. Like right now, I can't even open my eyes. Like I'm dying. I've been up since 5.
And you're a sleeper.
Not lately.
Well, but you normally.
Yeah, I like to sleep.
Yeah. It's bad for you.
It is, but you know what? It's fine. One day, maybe I'll get to sleep again.
Yeah, because the light at the end of that tunnel is they become teenagers, and then you can't wake their ass up.
Mm-hmm.
It's just know what's ahead.
Oh, I remember that part of my life.
Yes. Yeah. Good. The more you know.
The part where I slept.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have any.
That's
other
your
beef.
only beef? Just children?
Yeah, I've just been like kind of stuck in my head trying to finish class and being sad about, life things, and so I haven't had much time to be mad about shit this week.
Yeah, because you're not mad because you're sad.
Mm-hmm. And hella busy and exhausted.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a new
Rage
shirt.
Energy.
Sad, not mad.
Yeah.
Sad and mad.
Can we have it be reversible and the inside says mad, not sad?
That would be awesome.
Or you could have like mad/sad and sad/mad, like to cover all possibilities.
Yeah.
Yes.
Uh,
I like it.
Yeah, come to that.
No one's gonna buy these. I get text messages from people and they're like, can you make me this shirt about this thing? And I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I can.
Limited run.
I mean, that was the I Cry at Work shirt, which ended up being way more popular than we thought it would be.
Yeah. Yeah, it did.
Deservedly so.
Leah, what's your beefs?
I never do Facebook Lives, but I have Facebook Live about
We're doing one right
crowds of people. I'm doing one right now.
now.
So I did one just all alone by myself about the throngs of people who were on the National Mall this weekend watching the flyover to honor the health workers and the essential workers while actively spreading disease. Masks, not social distancing, no enforcement, government-sanctioned flyover. So that's my beef. It's like, why, y'all? I'm bored too.
Fuck.
Stay home. Watch an airplane on TV.
That is
Don't masks and shit. Thank you.
The end.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. That's also fuckery. Let's see. I'm mad about so many things. I've got the list is really long. I'm going to try and narrow it down to a couple things. One
silent
is,
third partner.
Silent third partner who's not silent. Except she's kind of like a fourth. I guess she's our third partner, and then we have rotating other partners.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So like, I really like truly in my heart like believe that like the work that we do at my organization, like picking up the phones and talking to people in their worst moment, is some of like the best work you can do. It's a fucking privilege to do that work. And it's part of our, because we learn to do that work on the backs of other people, because you don't do that stuff until you start doing it and trying things and like making mistakes and whatever. So we learn our work on the backs of the people we serve. So it's our obligation to show up to that work able to do it well. I believe in that. And it's hard to do. And it's like hard to keep yourself in that space. It's hard to hold your colleagues into that space where we can all remain really, really ethical and doing our best work all the time. I don't believe you have to be perfectly in like good mental health or whatever to do that. But so I have all these beliefs, but like, this is also a time where everything's really, really fucked up. And so like balancing the expectation of like people doing really critically hard work who also are living at home where they're performing that work, dealing with all the same shit that everyone who's calling in about is doing. Like, I'm just like angry about the pandemic being handled so fucking poorly by our government that I'm where I have conversations with our staff, asking them to do things they should just never, like asking them to deal with their stuff in ways that people shouldn't be expected to deal with their stuff. And I like it. And I'm really proud of the people I work with really hard right now. And I think that's something people in crisis work are experiencing all over the country right now. Everyone's trying to figure it out, but it's just like this is what you have a fucking government for. If you're gonna have one, could you show up and do something when there's a pandemic instead of being like, we're gonna like, send everybody home except for like 90% of workforce who's going to actually still be considered essential. It's just.
But the ratings are high.
Fuckery.
Ratings are high and the numbers are low. Just let me like
unbelievable fuckery. I'm just like, maybe someone who is unemployed during this time and is extremely smart or whatever can like do some assassinations to fix some shit. Just make sure that you're taking it out in groups of 3. Everybody has to go out in groups of 3. If you need to know who they are, let me know.
The power of 3 will set us free.
Well, if you take out just one, there's one behind them. But if you get all 3, usually there's not a new head out in its place.
Pro tips, everyone.
Yeah.
But are they ever in the same place at the same time? That's
you just have to do it at the same time. It might take more than one of you. I am not the assassination expert. I can just tell you.
Right. I'm your target person. Yeah, exactly.
You know what I did not do when we started Beef Corner?
You didn't do Corner?
I didn't play the video.
We'll play it now.
I'm doing it. It's beefy. Because Carol Baskin did it. And here is the proof.
Out of Carol Baskin. Like, you should go ahead and kill your other girl. If you would like a list of some other people to murder, I will be 3.
At DMs are open. Slide in.
Yeah, if I wasn't on a government list before, I'm certainly on now.
Yeah, I think you definitely just made one.
I deleted that Facebook Live. I got really paranoid, but then I'm like, oh my God, it exists and it'll never go away ever the rest of the time.
Yes, and I'm already on a list.
You're on a few lists, I'm sure.
Guaranteed.
There's only so many times you can check out the Communist Manifesto in high school before they're like, you. But, yeah.
I mean, you have a whole story about that, though, don't you? About being in Colorado and being that kid.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
She's like, we're not doing that this evening.
No, I'm not doing that.
I'm just gonna roll over that.
Okay. Any other beefs?
Oh, I don't know. I'll come up with a beef at 1 past the hour and we're done.
Right.
I just have a general beef.
Yeah.
Just like living. It kind of echoes on specific beefs that were previously shared.
Just living.
Yeah.
No, just the expectation to keep things moving.
Yeah.
During the apocalypse.
Mm-hmm.
Just the daily apocalypse-laden grind. I'm very thankful for the work that I have.
Yeah.
And that I get to do it and the people I get to work with, but it's just it's surreal. It's like navigating two different consensus realities at the same time.
Totally.
Does anybody? Thank you.
Yeah.
There's something weird too when you're part of I'm part of some real weird decision making things that you don't think about having to happen, but absolutely do. What do we do in the carceral system when we can't provide mental health services to people as easily anymore? So I'm in these weird meetings, screaming, being decarcerate everyone, let everyone out. And they're like, that's not how this works. So I'm having to negotiate that. But it's also cool to be in that position of power. So I don't want to have beefs about being in those meetings, but I have a list from people in those meetings too, probably. No, I won't give you a list of people I actually work with tomorrow, just for the record.
They're off list.
Not making it, but no, it's hard. There's some strong conflicting personalities there.
Oh my.
Well, I'm glad I've talked about killing people a lot today. That was a good on my part.
Expressions.
Yeah. I want to talk about working with researchers, which was another.
Oh yeah.
So Des and I had a panel we were on about working with researchers at AAS. Mm-hmm. Leah has lots of thoughts about working with researchers, which I'm real excited for you to talk about. So basically the panel that we did was about bridging lived experience and research. And I think there's some great work that can happen in that space and also some big challenges that come up from that. Of them being that I think researchers tend to be committed to whatever they feel is the right method of research, despite no matter what they hear from people with lived experience. So there's this really interesting quantitative, qualitative clashing that happens a lot. And then also generally researchers tend to want to be oh, let's have an advisory board of people with lived experience instead of paying people with lived experience to be involved in the process of figuring out what the research questions should be and disseminating and all of that. That's what it looks like to partner. Their version of partnership is I have an advisory board. It's 3 white people who attempted suicide in 1962 at the hospital, and they're definitely not Mexican.
Just rubber stamp it. Rubber stamp what we're doing. Thank you for your meaningful inclusion. Done. Yeah. Done.
Or then they get the advice and then they don't look at it or don't do anything with it. But
thoughts.
Yeah, researchers are like that. Just a lot of you,
Just a lot of you.
Leah, talk about clinical fragility, because this is so good.
Thank you. Yeah, so basically I was inspired by Robin DiAngelo's White Fragility, which we talked about on our panel. I definitely encourage you to check out that book and framework. But it was just, something that really struck me, particularly after Jess and I were at a meeting, I guess, was that in January before the apocalypse? Was it in December? It was in December.
December, yeah.
The year 2019. Yeah.
And that was December,
This wasn't a researcher, but just someone who's very established in the mainstream mental health world that really felt like they could speak very confidently on all matters related to mental health with ultimate authority. And seeing when that person's kind of core beliefs were challenged in the room and nobody kind of thought about that. Like,
Yeah.
I just saw this person like break down, like in a way that if us as mad people ever did in a room, be like, that person's never being invited back to the advisory council.
Do I know about this?
Oh yeah, I talked about it on suicide and stuff.
So yeah,
Can
that
I
was
get a
really
text message with a reminder of the name?
I don't know the name, but I know what organization they were from, and I bet you could figure it out too if you thought about mental health very much.
I know the name.
Continue.
I know the name.
Oh,
Slide my DMs. I'll tell you the name. I'm lonely. It's been a rough quarantine, you know. Just trying to get connection where I can.
Okay. Yeah, so clinical fragility. So this when they're core beliefs.
So clinically is based on, they are so invested in a medical framework and a set of core beliefs about what's medication and what's drugs, what's treatment and what's just some nonsense over there by people without PhDs, right? So like when that person's, core beliefs are challenged, and I've seen over and over again, much like when white people are challenged about race and racism and their role in it, they get real up in their feelings about that. I have seen that similarly with clinical folks, and that, attached onto that, and not just clinical folks, but researchers. Just if you're challenging their education, their framework, everything they're invested in, right? Their lobbying agenda, for example, and policy priorities, then yeah, you might witness hostility. You might witness, foot sping, all kinds of various exchanges of outrage. Table pounding is a sign of clinical fragility if you've ever seen it.
Yeah.
And, it does overlap with the research field as well, but it's kind of just this inability to hold multiplicity, multiple truths, multiple ways of knowing, and just freaking the fuck out in the face of that.
Yeah. Yeah, there's you can see, it's almost cartoon-like a lot of times where the redness creeps up and there's unbuttoning of
there's a vein,
always a collar.
There's a vein popping here, either here or here. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely if I did that in a meeting, I would get fucking up right now and but we can just
absolutely. Yeah, I'd be disinvited for life.
Yeah.
For life disinvited if I threw a shit fit like that in a meeting.
Right. And some can do people from that sort of orientation can do that in meetings all the time with no fear of their career being compromised. So we were saying earlier, I'm sending as a constant text message that's holy shit, did I ruin my career? These motherfuckers are just doing this all the time, no problem. Des, do you have stuff you want to say about that panel?
I think that panel did not go the way that it was intended to go. I think it was better than it was intended to be.
For sure.
I think Jess hijacked it.
No, I feel our moderator killed it.
Oh, fuck yeah. Sarah Victor is amazing. I love her.
Yeah.
I second that.
So what I loved about that was that I got to choose all the panelists. So I was like, okay, I wanted to study under you. You're good. You're good. Jess is attached to the ass with me, and this is what we're doing.
Go back and forth forever.
Yeah. I thought it went really well. I thought the chat. I was having trouble maintaining both because there was this really vigorous chat conversation that was happening. About qualitative data, quantitative, objectivity, subjectivity. It was fantastic. And then also having this other conversation. I thought it went really well. I thought we needed more time. And we need to keep having conversations like that. I think in a lot of ways, I'm lucky. When I get to work with researchers, it's usually because I have something that they want. So I get to lay ground rules. And I think a lot of other people don't get to do that, like sometimes I get into an advisory board, but other times they want to work with me because I did something, I collected these stories and they want to let them. And so I think that gives power that a lot of people don't have. So it's interesting to be able to start these conversations and then say, okay, well, how can we expand this? I think that was the beginning of a conversation that we need to keep having. And that is also an accountability thing. We need to keep holding the researchers accountable. If you're going to do research about this topic, we need to be accountable, period.
Yeah, and you need to sell your money, period.
Yeah. Did we talk about that? I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You pay us. Yeah, and then we're going to redistribute that shit. Oh,
yeah.
Did we bring that up in the... I can't remember.
I talked to Radical Redistribution panel research.
Yeah, huh? For a quick place for it.
Yeah. I was like, oh, I thought I was going to get through AAS without, like, being a tirade about capitalism. I never thought that about AAS or anything.
No, you did.
But I snuck in,
that's kind of our reality now, too, So.
Right.
Yeah, just give us all your money.
Yeah. I think one of the important takes of, like, that I wanted people to leave that with, just to, like, try and, again, like, transfer knowledge, but to me, it's really important that when we talk to people with experience, that we're not going to the same, like, 5 white people who are, like, sane, passing, and recovery oriented, and they take their pills and they've never thought about suicide again, as the people who are providing insight to, like, the questions we should be asking and how we should be asking them. That, like, the reality is that you need to be locally engaging with people in the area where you're going to do your research and finding people who are having that experience that's contemporaneous with what you are doing. I think you can have some people who are, like, farther out from those experiences or whatever, but if you're not also including the people who are going to be served by this work, you're doing it wrong.
You're just star fucking. You're star fucking at a point.
Yeah.
And how is that helping?
Yeah.
Other than you checking a box on your damn grant application that you included an attempt survivor who's, like, completely has no connection to what's actually happening on the ground. Sorry.
Right. And I think the other side of that for me then is also, like, if your response is, I don't know people in my community that have these experiences, do the fucking work.
Right.
Do the fucking work. It's your job. Like,
make the connections.
Make a friend.
Not know a suicide attempt survivor. Are you kidding me?
Right.
We're cuddly. We don't bite most of the time.
Unless you ask nicely.
Be friends with me. My DMs are open.
Oh my God, Leah.
This wine spritzer is taking effect. I apologize.
So what we've learned this evening.
Light on the spritz. Yes.
What we've learned this evening is that Leah would like to flirt with you, and she may bite you or not.
I'll give you names. We'll start with a name.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Yeah, that panel was great. I love that panel.
Yeah, it's fun.
I'm gonna do it again with more people.
Yeah.
That point of, like, and I'm, that it could be, you could have been aiming that at me. You can't keep going to the same person.
Well, in some ways, I think that about you too.
Yeah,
but, like,
because I'm one of the people know. But the good thing about me specifically is that I have this community, and I'm not about my own voice. Like, Live Through This is about the voices of 200 people together. And even however many hundreds of possibly thousands at this point of people who want to be a part of it or who know all of us, that's one way that me being involved, like, we can amplify because we have this community. Whereas, I don't know, it's not just about us. And I think that you have to know who you're going to. You have to know who you're going to go.
Where you going to? Sorry.
Yeah. I lost my train of thought. I did want to point out the accountability piece there.
Yeah.
And also the collective, because so often it's like, get up, tell your story, now sit down. And that's not what you do, Des, like,
No, it's just,
Right.
keep yelling.
You are telling your story, also bringing in, as you said, like all of these other narratives that like are other stories, and like that's rare.
And a lot of times you're not even
that
telling.
interesting.
Yeah, a lot of times you're like, it's not even about me. But yeah, like it's not the like, here I am the good survivor.
I had that phase.
So this is like a great time to bring up that Live Through This has been around for 10 years, and Des got to do a session about like the things she's learned from a decade of Live Through This. I had very big feelings about it. I feel like Live Through This is extremely important. I wrote a very long tweet thread about it, which I'm not going to read out loud right now to make Des cry, but I am going to put it in the comments here because fucking matters. Like Des are stories, and that is like so fucking critical. And working on this for a decade is a really cool thing. Now tell us some stuff you learned.
Well, I mean, I wrote that talk in like a day. And I have.
It was excellent.
I wanted. There were more people that I would have liked to have been able to involve and acknowledge, but I didn't have enough time. So that sucked. But it was. I mean, the big things that I've learned from the project are that there are themes, and I think I kind of went into this work with an inkling of that, but without having the language. And the first thing is that these thoughts, they don't go away. Like a lot of people have chronic suicidal thoughts, and so the story that we're told about the experience of suicide and the same fucking messages mainstream suicide prevention sells us, which is that suicide is preventable. Just get treatment. Like there are so many problems with that to fucking begin with that at the very least Live Through This will start by saying, okay, it might be preventable, but like this is something that I continue to experience. So what does that mean? Even if I had my suicidal crisis, I got whatever treatment was forced upon me, or if I was lucky enough, I chose it, whether it worked or not, I probably have still been suicidal again since. So what does that mean? And I think that that's a huge part of this experience that suicide prevention, suicidology doesn't even touch at all. So that was one thing I really wanted to talk about. And then the other part is essentially about, the power of peer support. It's when I ask people, I didn't start doing this probably until halfway in, and I think it was Laura Fry's fault, if I recall. But it's her fault. But I started asking people, like, what good came out of these experiences with suicide? And people fucking always say it's that I can help someone else. So there it is. Evidence for peer support. We don't need to fucking publish it in a journal. Like over 100 people who say it's true,
We are the evidence.
Yeah, we are the evidence.
Start my fist and getting red. No, sorry.
There you go. Yeah, so I don't know. That talk was... I haven't even really had a chance to process it. Because I've just been going and going. But I was glad that I was able to do it, I was glad that I was given the opportunity. And yeah, 10 years of exploiting my fellow survivor, my bandit.
I want to mention, we wouldn't know each other if Live Through This didn't exist, the three of us.
Yeah.
And that would be a fucking tragedy.
Yeah. I probably wouldn't know a lot of my closest friends if not for Live Through This.
Misery loves company, y'all. Come join us.
For sure, yeah.
Come join us.
We are miserable. No.
Miserable, and we love it. We love being miserable together.
And laughing about how miserable we are, but not actually being miserable together. I don't think we're in that.
Something that's cool that's kind of connected to this is that I think there's going to be an article coming out soon, and we'll post it everywhere, that has all three of us talking about peer support in it amongst some other folks. And I'm really excited about essential, like, big publication, talking about peer support in the ways that it's going to, and about suicide in the ways that it's going to. I can't believe it's going to have to be real. It's kind of like it's not like I think it's as big a deal as the People magazine spread on Live Through This, because that was fucking crazy. Can't believe that happened. But
yes,
it's going to be pretty cool.
Mostly no, because it didn't really include content, like.
Yeah, but it was really cool.
It was amazing, and it included our stories, but I would have loved for people to do what this is going to do. Yeah. In addition to, our faces and quotes from us. But,
yeah,
God forbid people do a fucking deep dive.
Yeah,
that's capitalism, baby. We don't got space for that dive.
Yeah, I want to tell you more, but I don't think I'm really supposed to, and we'll push it out on everything when it's around. So
yeah.
Anybody have final thoughts?
Oh, I don't know. I'm tired. That's my final thought.
Exhaustion.
Yeah.
Nobody's got final thoughts. Let's end on that peer support. Peer support is dope. You should do it.
Oh, can I
create your
thing really quick? Do we have time?
Yeah, do your thing.
May 11th, I'm going to be on a panel that's convened by the Institute for the Development of Human Arts on the film Bedlam that you provided some extra-streamed commentary on. And through IDHA, they created an open to PBS and got like 70 orgs to sign on. So anyway, we're doing this live panel discussion on Monday, May 11th, and links exist. I'll put them places.
Is it on your Facebook or Twitter already?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, it's at, if you follow the Institute for Development of Human Arts,
it's on
search up that thing. I'm sure it'll be on there. But yeah, Monday evening.
When are we going to get you head to head with the guy who made this fucking garbage ass movie?
Ooh, let's try and do that.
Yeah, how do we make that happen?
I don't even want to talk to his head. His head already has had too much airtime. I want the head to be quiet. So it's our turn.
Okay, so we could just duct tape his mouth shut and like.
I just feel like just put him in silhouette and mute him. Mute that guy.
Just mute him.
We bring him on and just mute him.
Just alter his voice and.
He won't have looked through all of these if we invite him. I'm not against doing something like that.
I feel like Homie already got so much attention. He's like, I'm a white man, I've gotten tons of attention.
What is this random troll in the feed?
We got a random troll?
Yeah.
I don't.
He wants to know if we have WhatsApp.
I might.
Leah.
Leah's in. To our DMs. Don't slide into our DMs, please.
No sliding.
Yeah, DMs are open.
Leah's DMs are open for business, everyone.
Everyone.
I love it. Okay, so we have to convene about this idea that we have that we democratize the information again. I do think that was one thing about having the conference virtually that was problematic. We spent so many years trying to make the information shared at the conference public via social media. And then suddenly when it was virtual, it was like, oh, well, now this is ours and we're going to share it with people who registered asynchronously. But then beyond that, people can't really see it. And I have feelings about that. So I like the idea of recreating or, kind of taking it in our own hands, do it again and make it ours. Because I don't ever really sign up for something to be told that I then can't share it however I choose. Like I did that. I wrote that. That's mine.
That's my it's not even my intellectual property, but I still want to insist on having control over that.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, there are agreements that we do. I think we can do the recordings, whatever. We can figure it out.
Yeah. Hello, men.
But also, there's something really, cool about getting the feedback in the moment. So it would be really helpful, I think, for us to do it live again and have our own recording. So let's just do it again.
Yeah.
It's not hard. We've done it a first time, so now it's not hard.
I'm done. I mean, down. I'm down and I'm done.
Down and done.
Also dirty. Slide into the DMs.
Yeah, I'm dirty. Ooh.
Lubed up.
With spritzer.
Ready to go.
Down
All right. Thanks, everyone, for suiciding with us.
Do you have any commentary on the stuffing?
Thing is good. Heard it. Yeah. Bill Vice. Salty.
What is good? I don't know what's happening. What happened?
All
Bye.
right, send a link to your stuff, Leah.
Yes. Will be shared in the link things. Thank you for me on.
Thanks for coming.
It's fun. We're going to do it again.
Please.
Yeah.
Anytime.
All right.
I'm here for you.
Say goodbye. The
Bye.
DMs are not mine.
Bye-bye.
Leia's. Bye.
DMs are wide open. Bye. They're not, actually.